If there was anything I could compare Moon Garden to, it would be a cross between Pan's Labyrinth and Skinamarink. Let me explain. The movie centers on a 5-year-old girl named Emma, played by Haven Lee Harris, who, after watching her parents fight, falls into a coma and wakes up in this dream world full of people and objects that remind her of her childhood. And she has to find any way that she can to regain consciousness and get out of this dream world before she's attacked by this mysterious creature only known as Teef, who has the power to feed on children's tears. Which sounds extremely brutal and dark, and it just reminds me of how almost every horror movie of 2023, the good ones anyways, almost always have to do with little kids being attacked by monsters. It's, do filmmakers hate kids these days? Like, what the fuck? Regardless, despite how brutal this sounds on paper, this is actually one of the best movies I've seen all year. Certainly top 3 in how it was made. I mean, the cinematography, the production and set design creates so many insanely imaginative, large-scale, and simultaneously whimsical yet disturbing visuals. One of the best aspects of this movie is the way that it's lit. So many sequences are just drenched in blue, red, or green neon lighting, and while most movies tend to overutilize that in a stylistic sense, there are so many metaphors that tie into the lighting within the scene and the dilemmas that each character is going through, especially Emma. And for a movie that I'm willing to bet was made for only $500,000, it's filmed on such a massive scope where nearly everything is done on a set or on location to the point where I'm watching everything on screen, and there were so many times where I just thought to myself, how the fuck did you accomplish this? Because everything feels tangible. Even the fake, unconvincing special effects, like whenever they use reverse footage or stop motion animation that was clearly their first time doing it, it had this lo-fi charm to it that was inspirational towards anyone who felt like they can't make a movie with little resources that they had. The filmmakers behind this, they worked their asses off, they multitasked with just about everything they could, and the effort really goes to show. Nearly everything you see on screen, even if you know where the effect comes from, the fact that it was done for real elevates each scene up to 10, and it makes you feel as if you actually are within the dream world of a 5-year-old.
There's even an animated segment where these 3 talking heads tell this one story.
It's a bit random, kind of a Deus Ex Machina, but it's still one of the most gorgeous and yet disturbing elements of the story. And I gotta say, Haven Lee Harris in her film debut at either 5 or 6 years old, I'm not entirely sure, either way, she's absolutely phenomenal, and I say it a lot in my videos where kids have the harder task than the adults, especially when they're doing it for the first time and 80% of the movie centers on them, but she's exceptional. There are so many scenes where she carries what the character is going through without any dialogue whatsoever. Just a look, just a smile, a tiny little tear that she's able to muster up. I don't know how directors can do that with kids. I don't really want to because I don't want to make a kid cry, but I feel like the director played certain tricks on her, kind of like what Spielberg did with the Close Encounters kid, where they did stuff off screen in order to manipulate emotions. But either way, acting and directing collaboration-wise, it's top-notch. And her character reminded me of the kids from Skinamarink in that she comes from a broken home and is semi-aware of it, but because of her young age, she doesn't know the full extent or really how to process it, if there's anything that she can do about it. Did she cause any of it? She doesn't realize that she's really the glue in this relationship. And as much as I wasn't a fan of the relationship itself, I do commend the fact that even though one parent is worse than the other, this movie is not afraid to show that both of them have good and bad aspects. And regardless of either one, they're capable of redemption. They're capable of escaping the situation that they're in and making their lives and their child's lives a hell of a lot better. It's hard to describe the side characters in this because they all have this Alice in Wonderland feel where they're in it for 5 minutes and then they kind of disappear afterwards. But in any case, Philip E. Walker, Timothy Lee DePriest, and Maria Olsen, they all do exceptional work. And in regards to the side cast, not counting the parents, it does feel like an ensemble where they each have an equal amount of stakes and tension into the story. Except Maria Olsen. She's given like a peg more backstory and depth than the other side characters, but she does a great job, and she also is able to visually communicate a dynamic between her and Emma with very few words. The villain, on the other hand, was kind of a mixed bag for me. The design itself was cool. The physical elements are ones that I've never seen in a horror movie monster before, and the way it transported itself to try and attack Emma was unnerving every single time, but I felt like they gave away the full look of the creature a little too soon, and I felt like they could have kept it a mystery or in the shadows up until the third act where things really go haywire. But for me, the biggest problem in the film is the relationship between the parents. And like I said, they're shown to have good and bad qualities, even if the dad is objectively a worse human being, but they're also shown to be capable of redemption and such like that, but their acting was so melodramatic, and the dialogue that they go back and forth between was extremely surface level, and if you want a complex look at a domestic abuse relationship, aside from the whole possibility of redemption or rekindling, it's few and far between. And is it just me, or does the mom look exactly like Nicole Kidman? Because that was super distracting. Hell, the dad kind of looked like Jim Caviezel to a certain extent, but that's really all I gotta say. Moon Garden is already in my top 10. Judging by how many movies have been delayed this year for reasons I still can't fathom, I don't see that changing anytime soon. And even then, the production value that this movie has, the performances, just the sense of imagination that comes with this movie, definitely rent it. If by some miracle it's still playing in a theater nearby, please check it out. Either way, support this as much as you can, because this is going to slip under a lot of people's radar.